how did Earth go for 2023?
Not particularly well, and not as well as could have been and should have been and what was expected and what was hoped for. 23 was a year in which we came out of COVID, and there was a lot of hope and there was a feeling of freedom. One of the downsides of what happened in COVID was that people ceded so much control to governments worldwide. So the governments felt very powerful, almost omnipotent, and the outcome of that is we now have two wars of significance, and they dominate the landscape. It's very interesting because when we have two wars going simultaneously, one of the countries in one of the wars is complaining because they don't have enough attention and enough focus upon them. If wars are about getting attention and focus, something's wrong. What all of that is saying is that we've lost our direction. The world was never about ceding power to governments. They're meant to act on our stead or in our stead, and they're not. They're acting as they want to, and they're assuming the rights of the people. So that's the change we're looking for, to revert back to where people find their power, because so many have said if the government says we have to do. Some of the good signs coming out of 23 is that for the first time people are openly beginning to question countries at war. And they're beginning to question if that's okay. Moreover, they're beginning to question the ferocity of the war and the tactics in the war, and saying that's inhumane. And in the past, the propaganda's won, and people are starting to find a voice to see through the stories and see through the lies, and saying that doesn't feel right. So out of this, the good part is that there's hope starting to show that people are finding a voice. The bad part, we have two wars of significance, and the worst part to that is when we have two wars of significance, there's a real chance of more, because other countries follow.
If we were in such a terrible state after 2023, what's Spirit telling us about 2024?
The big risk is more war, because war leads to war. And leaders follow each other, so-called leaders, political leaders. That's the big risk. The other risk is that inequality in the world is growing. So if we just for the moment use the reference of money, the gap's getting bigger between the rich and the poor. With that increasing in 24, what we have is a decrease in morals and decrease in values, where equality goes out the window. And unfortunately, societies generally see the poor as not having a say, not having a voice, and they're underrepresented. They do, of course, but they're more interested in how would we feed ourselves. Those are the big worries, the war and the spread of inequality, which leads to a downgrade. It's a difficult year to come for all sorts of reasons, and not only that, it's a year with a lot more natural disasters. They've been going for a long time. They're going to continue unabated, more likely worse. If we refer 24 back to 23, we've got further to go for people to say it's not okay what's going on, and we want something different in the world. So there's more to go of the disasters and of the lack of leadership and of abuse of power. It's amazing to think that in 2023 and 2024 we still have countries fighting for territory to take each other's territory. Stunning that we have learned so little over so long.